films do exactly that, can you?
Yes. But they quite literally put them in the shoot for doing, POV shots. Obviously, 1917 is a long shot, but I think it's not a nice little detail that could be added to that, is that I feel people these days are, quite selfish in thinking, that's not me, that could never be, that was 100 years ago kind of thing. But now them seeing in with the POV shots, emphasising that could have been you. It could have been a different era, a different point of the world. And it could have been you rather than it's 100 years ago kind of thing.
Absolutely. I know when we watched All Quiet on the Western Front together, we spent a lot of time talking about, well, of course, this is 100 years ago. But the truth is, what's going on in Ukraine at the moment, that's been decided by other people, not by the troops themselves, but it could happen in the blink of an eye. Yeah. And you don't have to stretch your imagination too far to know that it could well be you stood in those trenches.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. So for 1917, obviously it has the long shots, but I don't want to bore you again with that. You've already mentioned it and gone on quite thoroughly.
You might have talked about it.
Yeah, just a bit. But I feel like, obviously, because they can't do very many shots, they use angles to their advantage by doing kind of extreme shots with it, by maybe going up higher, making them minuscule to, the world around them, and see how helpless they are, or even the lone shots kind of thing. The lead character's name, the last surviving one.
Sorry, are you talking about George Mackay?
Oh, nice one there, Dad. Had to slip that one in.
Yeah, just quickly Googled it. But that's it. We talked an awful lot after the 1917 film about how expressive the lead character's face was, and a lot of that is brought over by the camera work rather than the actor. Yeah,
I think in equal parts they do each other so much justice by angle shots, and you just see his face looking so terrified up high, so he's such a small being in this monstrous war, and he's terrified. And then there's the massive divots and cranes in the ground. It scoops down there to show how massive these things were and how treacherous things were, even in one shot.
Oh, totally. And then finally, All Quiet on the Western Front, which is different again.
Completely, with, All Quiet on the Western Front, they still manage to have then different points of view, kind of shots and, opinions and different perspectives of this war, but while still pinpointing and, making the lead soldier's story the pinnacle, the entertainment of the movie, and, the other people being subparts to it.
Well, that's it. If you look across the three films, you've got 1917, which is all about the two guys at the start, and then ultimately one guy at the end.
We don't talk about that.
Sorry, more plot spoilers. You've got All Quiet on the Western Front, which is about a group of people, but has one or two main protagonists. And then Dunkirk is almost 4 or 5 different stories running in parallel with each other. And that to me, is the biggest difference between the films, but they all generate a certain emotion in you.
It's almost like they're competing for everyone's attention, everyone's sympathy, and it makes it very hard to try and grasp one story and devote your whole emotion, your whole sympathy, empathy for this.
Oh, sorry, you're talking about
story.
Dunkirk?
Yeah, sorry. Finds it hard, it's quite confusing, to watch one time. I think they say that quite a lot about Christopher Nolan movies, Tenet, and you have to watch it a couple of times to fully understand, even with Interstellar.
Yeah, but I'll be honest, with Tenet, I'd never go back. I saw it once, I'm done with it.
Yeah, it wants to be a 2-watch thing, but in all honesty, it's a 1-watch.
Whereas a lot of his other stuff, like Inception, you'd watch over and over again and get something new out of it every time, and you'd be happy watching it again. Mm. Now, Pops, can we move on to special effects? Now, this is something I know very little about. So, who out of the 3 films has the best special effects in your humble opinion?
Well, it's actually quite hard to judge, as, Dunkirk has little to barely any special effects. Christopher Nolan really tried to make it a point of doing everything, even though it could perhaps look the same, never be as realistic as in real life. So he built the planes, he built the different contraptions, the cameras on the side of the planes, had all of the boats in the ocean, filmed at the actual location rather than a green screen. And even the butane in the ocean to ignite it. That was all real. That wasn't special effects. I feel like they only kind of merely added, smoke at, best, and only little bits of shots that were CGI'd in just because they had to. So I don't think they had very much special effects, actually. And same with All Quiet on the Western Front. It's quite seamless. I think they have a lot of, on-set effects happening, so they're having bombs going off in the background, smoke everywhere kind of thing. They have a lot of that, but rather than green screen and editing afterwards, they don't have very many of that. 1917, that could be a bit different. Massive plane hitting the barn, that was CGI'd in, but you wouldn't notice, so it's very seamless there. Special effects, in your view, you don't miss that or crave it in a movie.
And in some ways, isn't that what special effects are all about? See, for me, Marvel films are just crammed full of so much CGI that at no point could you envisage you're in this world that they're trying to create. And if you're trying to create a realistic war movie...
You want the rawness.
Absolutely. You don't want computer-generated nonsense. You want it to feel 100% real. And that's where all three of these films gets it absolutely right.
Yeah, align entirely.
Yeah. You feel that world exists and the people in that world are living through that hell. Okay, and the final category that we're going to talk about is the emotions. And I'll try my best to hold it together for this one, but we're going to talk about the heart and what each of the films makes you feel. Now, Poppy knows, having sat through 1917 with me, that I was an absolute mess at the end.
Famous one tear.
And All Quiet on the Western Front, I think I got away with the tears in that. And then Dunkirk, I'll be honest, I was a little bit unmoved by the whole thing. Where are you at, Pops? This is your podcast, so if you're going to rate these three fantastic films on the emotions and the feels, where are you at?
Well, like you said with Dunkirk, like I said earlier as well, I feel like they're all competing for my sympathy, my attention, and it gets quite confusing to who do I dedicate this sympathy to? Who do I feel the most sympathetic to? It's just like a movie shouldn't be like that. You should have, one antagonist.
Yeah.
Protagonist.
Protagonist is a good guy, yeah.
Protagonist. But you should have one person to fully feel the heart for, understand their life before, understand their life now, understand that life will never be the same after this, understand the utter hell that they're going through. The tears are screaming the pain that they're going through. It feels that you need to deeply connect with someone. And I think...
Definitely, the problem with Dunkirk for me is you start to have those feelings and then it switches to a different section of the war somewhere else, and then you have to start all over again with building emotion. Whereas the other two films, you're there for every step of the way and it's a slower build, but it gets you in the end.
I think with All Quiet on the Western Front and 1917 are actually very similar. The protagonist and then their friends kind of thing. And, with the lead person, George, is it Mackay?
Yeah.
He has a friend, but unfortunately, he goes through that pain. And
I think we've definitely spoiled it now. We've said that 3 times.
I feel like that you should grasp it as a bit of a spoiler-full podcast.
Need a warning at the front of this, don't we?
But he has a friend and he loses it, and then he has to break it to someone else. Like, these deaths actually are impactful, not only to their friendship, to their brother, to, their mother kind of thing. And you see that pain go through, and that's really heartbreaking. But then with Quiet on the Western Front, you see all their friends. And like I said, you don't want too many point of views. But I don't think that 1917 has point of views. It's the one point of views of both of them. They are the same kind of thing. They're the same protagonist in this situation, to catch it plainly. They're mere chess pieces in this game of chess.
I think that's where All Quiet gets it absolutely right. That the film starts with these enthusiastic young recruits that are just champing at the bit to go out, fight, and ultimately win the war and come home as heroes. And ultimately